in the moment, as opposed to trust. When I think of faith, I think faith also brings up for me trust and hope. Trust being a firm belief in the reliability, truth, and ability or strength of someone or something. Where faith is in the now, trust is in the action. Hope and faith differ in regard to their sources. Faith comes from knowingness, while hope comes from uncertainty. So in order to have faith, we must have a conviction that all is already well, not hope that everything will be well in the future. Therefore, like I said, faith is in the present, hope is in the future, and trust is an action we take to support faith. Now, don't misunderstand me. There is nothing wrong with hope. It's a wonderful thing, and perhaps the last thing to die. I am just making the distinction among all three. So there's a wonderful story, I think, that illustrates this point that we're trying to make this morning, and I think I shared it a few years ago. That's definitely worth repeating. It's all about a successful businessman or a woman who was growing old and knew it was time to choose a successor to take over their business. Instead of choosing one of their directors or one of his children, he decided to do something completely different. He called all the young executives in his company together to let them know he was retiring and it was time to choose the next CEO. The young executives, of course, were shocked that he wasn't picking a family member. However, the boss continued, "I'm going to give each of one of you a seed today. It's a very special seed. I want you to plant the seed, water it, and come back here in 1 year from today with what you have grown from that seed that I give you now. I will then judge the plant and that you bring, and the one I choose, the next plant that I choose, will also be the next CEO." Well, one employee named Jim was there. Of course, he was called in, and he, like the others, received a seed. He went home and excitedly told his wife the story. So she helped him get a pot, some soil, some compost, and he planted the seed, right? And every day he would water it and watch it to see if it had grown. After about 3 weeks, some of the other executives began to talk about their seed and the plants that were beginning to grow in their household. Jim kept checking his seed, but nothing was happening. Nothing ever grew. Still, he was grateful for his job and trusted that all would be okay. 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks went by. Zip, nada, nothing. By now, others were talking about their beautiful, extraordinary plants. But Jim didn't have a plant, and he felt like a failure. 6 months went by. Still nothing in Jim's pot. He just knew he had killed his seed. But he had faith in his boss, and if he was supposed to have the new position, it would be his. A year finally went by, and for all the young executives of the company, it was time for them to bring their plants in for the CEO to inspect. Jim told his wife that he was not going to take an empty pot. But she asked him to be honest about what had happened and trust that all would turn out the way it should. Jim really felt sick to his stomach because it was going to be the most embarrassing moment of his life. But he knew deep down that his wife was right. He took his empty pot to the boardroom, and when he arrived, he was amazed at all the varieties of plants grown by all the other executives. They were beautiful in all shapes and sizes. Jim reluctantly put his empty pot on the floor, and many of his colleagues started to laugh, right? And some of them felt sorry for him. When the CEO arrived, He looked over the room, surveyed the room, and greeted his young executives. Jim just tried to hide in the back, as you could probably imagine. When the CEO spotted Jim at the back of the room with his empty pot, he ordered the financial director to bring him to the front. Well, of course, he was terrified. He thought, oh, crap. Basically, the CEO knows I'm a failure. When Jim got to the front, the CEO asked him what had happened to his seed. And Jim told him the story of how he watered and fertilized his seed every day, but nothing happened. But he had faith that all would turn out the way it was supposed to. The CEO asked everyone to sit down except for Jim, and then announced that Jim was the next CEO. Yay, Jim!
Yay, Jim!
Yay, Jim! While Jim was stunned, the other executives started to complain and argue. Well, what the heck? How could he be the new CEO? Then the current boss, the current CEO, said, 1 year ago today, I gave everyone in this room a seed. I told you to take that seed, plant it, water it, and bring it back to me today. But I gave you all boiled seeds. They were dead. It was impossible for them to grow. All of you except Jim have brought me trees and plants and flowers. Because when you found that the seed would not grow, you substituted another seed for the one I gave you. Jim was the only one with the courage and honesty and faith to bring me a pot with my seed in it. Therefore, he is the one who will be the new CEO. Now, this story not only illustrates integrity, but it also illustrates the willingness to continue to have faith, even in the face of what appears to be a failure, to continue to trust and take that action every day by watering every day to support your faith.
Yes, every day.
Every day in every way.
Every day we have the opportunity to choose. Are we going to choose to nurture and water our faith by taking that action? Are we going to choose love? Are we going to choose to be steadfast